Welcome to the Defenders of Business Value, the podcast that helps business owners unlock the value they've built and exit on their terms. I'm your host, Ed Meiseglan, and for the last 30 years, I've been helping business owners prepare, grow, protect, and ultimately sell their businesses. Whether you're a business owner, a buyer, or an advisor guiding others through the process, if you want to make your last deal your best one, you are in the right place. So let's get started. On today's episode, we're digging into one of the most sensitive and overlooked aspects of exit planning. What happens when your successor potentially shares your name? One of my favorite exit planners on the planet is Amy Wirtz. And Amy, she's the senior consultant over at the Family Business Consulting Group. And on top of that, not that it should surprise anybody, but she was the exit planner of the year. So she has spent her entire career helping family businesses navigate emotional and structure complexities and leadership transitions. So she's got some superpowers that set her apart. And you'll hear it in the episode that she has the ability to just offer some clarity and empathy. And she's selective on who she works with. So she's not just helping clients, with the mechanics of exit planning. She is right up to her neck in helping them preserve relationships, family relationships, values, and legacy in this whole process. So whether you're planning to keep the business in the family, or you just want to be prepared for going from a generation to another generation, this conversation, she has some great nuggets in there, and I'm so grateful for the time we got to spend. So you're going to find out that it's real talk, hard-won insight and practical takeaways. So enjoy my conversation with Amy Wirtz of the Family Business Consulting Group. Amy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me, Ed. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. And as I told you when we were visiting, that you were one of my highlights with the Exit Planning Institute. You were just a different exit planner. And I think that's kind of where I wanted to start because, and this is a wrong assumption these days, but to me, way back when I first met you, everybody was scrambling for this, everybody was an exit planner, but you were actually doing it. There were so many people that were using it for just their primary business as lead gen, like someone raising their hand, hey, I'm thinking about exiting. So a deal shop like ours is like, okay, that person's signaling that they're going to exit. And that just rubbed me wrong. It just was like a bait and switch. But you, however, you were already doing it. You were already consulting. So I think that's where I wanted to start, is to talk a little bit about what does a true exit planner do? By the way, before we even get started, congratulations on being Exit Planner of the Year in 2024.
Well, thank you. That was a lot of fun and a lot of work. It was, with every opportunity comes responsibility, but it was fun being the first person featured in the magazine. That was quite the ego boost.
Do you have a big poster of it? You do, don't you?
No, a friend of mine. I do have, my neighbor made me a frame with it cut out and put it in, so that it sits on my desk, on my little table by my chair. It was an honor. And I think when you go back to the question of what does an exit planner do? An exit planner helps an owner establish goals for the next chapter of their life. So we teach at EPI that an exit planner establishes with the owner their financial goals, their personal goals, and their business goals, right? It's like the stool, right? And how do we do that? We do that by helping them articulate where they want to go. We help them by diminishing tax impact upon a transition, having clear goals and plans in order to enhance the value of their company before they choose one of the exit options, right? So that would be talking about systems and processes and de-risking the company and elevating their 4Cs. I could go on and on and on. We do a lot of stuff, but basically the tenets of our work is helping the owner identify and educating them on the options, enhancing the value of their company, empowering them with knowledge, walking with them through the value enhancement process, their choices for harvest, and helping them get to harvest in the most economical, efficient way possible to shape their dreams after ownership.
And that's why you were Exit Planner of the Year, because you're an attorney, right?
I am an attorney by training. I no longer have a law license.
Candidly, I think attorneys make the best exit planners. And I don't know.
Why?
Well, I think that the attorney has the ability to communicate, I think, better. The attorney synthesizes so much information and makes an argument, makes briefs and so on and so forth. I think when an attorney talks about planning, right, they're dialed in and synthesized on the goal of that particular family. And again, it may just be exclusive to the people I've bumped into, but it always seems as though, like, if it's an accountant that does exit planning, right? The accountant is focused on the accounting tax implications and so on and so forth. When you're talking with the wealth advisors are talking about, post-sale distribution. And let's just talk about our shop. I mean, it always seems in our shop, it always gravitates to the execution of a sale. But with an attorney, the attorney seems to always have that holistic look. And again, this is just my opinion. Attorneys or somebody that is their entire practice is just all planning. They seem to be dialed in and can communicate all of the facets that go into one comprehensive kind of strategy. Just my take.
I never really thought about it that way. Thanks for giving me that window to look through. So I have the privilege and sometimes the challenge of working with attorneys that are very myopic. And sometimes I need that. Like on the team, I need someone to be only focused on de-risking EPA issues.
Yeah. Oh,
right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and they're very good at that, but they don't ever really look up. Yeah. But I would say that my career was in family law. And I think estate planners, family law planners, and business lawyers tend to have to look up and out because of all of the ripple effects of the work that we have on systems. We're system trained.
Same way, looking through that window. Again, all of us practitioners have the goals for the family in mind. Our heads are down, trying to do the best job we have. But somebody has to have their head up, looking, where is this thing going? And that's where you fall in.
And I think that's what value acceleration methodology consultants do. And the reason I say that is because if you've been through the EPI training, even some of the other trainings, we teach system thinking. This can't be done by one person because we need too much expertise to have one person that knows everything. We teach goal setting, good question asking, how to use that to help the owner see where they're going, how to create a vision. What's a 3-year vision? How do we back that up into 1 year, 120, 60, 90-day sprints? What's a project plan? What's accountability? I mean, we teach all that stuff. So even if your focus has traditionally been, I call it navel gazing, like looking down at your specific area of expertise, when you go through these trainings, it does help you really look up and out and embrace the knowledge of others.
Yeah, no, I get you. Well, the whole family law thing, I wanted to ask you, you started, but it's because of your family business, right? You had a family business.
My grandpa came into my grandmother's family business right after World War II. My great-grandpa and his brothers were Russian Jewish immigrants, and they were taken from Ellis Island and put into, of all places, Iowa, in the middle of cornfields. They became junk collectors to support their family, and then they became scrapyard owners, and they had car parts stores, and they had 4 junkyards and 1 auto store. And my grandpa, before he went to the war, was getting a degree in zoology. And then when he got back, my grandfather said, "You're not going to get a job in this, Irvin. You need to work for me so that you can support my daughter." And he wound up switching to finance and did accounting, and then went in and took helped with the business and that kind of.
And so tell me your origin story into exit planning. So you're an attorney, you're doing family law, and then what? How did you get here?
Like most professionals, it is not a straight line.
Amen to that.
As I tell my children all the time, careers are not a straight line. I was a very specific kind of family lawyer. I did no litigation towards the end of my career. I did collaborative divorce and mediation, and that's it. I stopped litigating about, I think, 13 or 15 years before I stopped doing law together. And it was that, plus I did nothing else. I didn't do business law, I didn't do estate planning, I didn't do class action. All I did was family law. So my firm at that time only did family law. So we got referrals from bigger firms that did not have family law or firms that had conflict, right? So one of my referral sources was a very well-known business lawyer in Lorain County. And he said, called me and said, "Hey, Wirtz." And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "I joined this new organization called EPI, I think it's called. And they do that collaborative crap you do for divorce with business owners. And one of the 5 Ds is divorce. I think you could teach these people something. Why don't you come to a meeting with me?" And that's how I found out that EPI even existed. And it was early in the very first chapter of EPI's history, and Chris and Scott were doing the chapter. And Kevin introduced me to these guys, and Chris was like, "Why are you here? I don't understand." So we went to breakfast, and from there, he was fascinated by the collaborative law idea because it was so collaborative law says we're going to build a team around the couple who are deciding to end their marriage, which is what EPI does for business owners that are exploring the idea of transitioning ownership, right? Same idea. Also, team has to work together and they have to have one clear organizing principle. The owner, ours was the family, this is the owner. And they have to have good communication skills. And what Chris said is, I've got a great defined system for the owner. I do not have a defined system on how team members play together and how to take these people that are used to working by themselves, working together for one common goal. Can you help us? And that started my journey in the process of EPI. And after I got certified, I looked up and went, I could do this. And I'm really, really bored with my career. And so transition.
I'll be dipped. So did two things. One, I got to EPI by Pete Chrisman. So
Oh,
Pete,
you did?
So Pete, who's considered the godfather of exit planning, so the little devil was using exit planning as a means to amplify his practice, and he was doing this on the biz sales side. At any rate, we kept losing deals to him, and finally, I'm like, and we're friendly competitors. Like, how the hell do you do this? And he goes, "Well, you need to come to Exit Planning Institute." I'm like, "Okay." And that's how we got involved. So let's talk about parallel planning. So you have the family system and the business system. What does each one of those mean?
Oh, it's so cool. Because in our work as a family business advisor, I use the value acceleration methodology very different than other people do. Okay. So in my work, the way I explain it to my families is we are going to create, if it doesn't exist, a vision, mission, and values for the family and a vision, mission, and values for the business. Okay, so stop there. A lot of my companies might have a vision, values, and mission statement that was created 3 generations ago in the business. But they've never really spent time talking about what are the values of the family. And what we teach is that work should be done and re-examined. So if you have an old vision, values, and missions, we create the family one. My goal is for them to understand that the family's vision, values, and missions should not contradict or be contradicted by the vision, mission, and values of the business, which should be reflective or incorporation of that. Okay. Next, we put goals in place and systems in place to reach those goals, right? And we define what are the goals of the business and what are the goals of the family. So under the goals of the business, I teach, why do you own together? What's the vision of ownership, right? Strategic planning for the business, but why we own together is in the family. Strategic planning is in the business, like what's our 1, 3, 5 year plan, right? And some of my businesses are super good at that and they have it down in spades. Some of them have never done it before.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would imagine the latter is probably more prevalent than the former.
It's all over the place. When I first started, I would say most of my businesses did not have a strategic plan, but I'm getting into older businesses with bigger systems, bigger leadership teams. So I'm seeing it more. what I find interesting is what they define as strategic planning. I have a lot of companies that say our budget and our project plan is our strategic plan. I'm like, nope.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
Yeah, right. But with families, the why of ownership, connectivity, and wealth connectivity is almost as important as the strategic planning, the why of the business. Where are we going? What are we doing? What's the purpose of it? But inside the family, if they're not clear on why they have connected wealth and the purpose behind sticking through it, we're going to have problems.
Interesting. So, as we're looking at different generations now, right? You were just talking about, the sandwich generation and the dynamics. I'm just kind of curious to know, like, with the generational wealth transfer, whether it be, like you said, 2 generations back, because those people are still alive and rocking. You've got our generation, and then you've got the generation below us that are all coming into the business. What are you seeing? Is there a common theme amongst all of them? Like Gen 1 looks like this. This is how they behave. Gen 2, this is what they look like, and this is how they behave. Gen 3 is just all over the board, and we're hoping that we can just get them into ownership and share the family vision.
Actually, and I have a slide on this, and it's more from instead of generations, I look at it type of ownership. So we look at it, is it like a Gen 1 could repeat in ownership? It could be a couple, a couple, a couple, a couple. So I could have, and literally that ease and pain point for 3 generations because they never did anything but give it to one person and one family, right? And that kind of ownership leads to a lot of, if it's not my dream and I'm inheriting someone else's dream, do I protect it? Do I grow it? Do I risk it? And it's on their shoulders, right? But the cash flow issues remain the same because it's supporting one nuclear family. Does that make sense? And there are 2 people that are making the decisions about growth, about retention, about sale, all those things. When I go from a couple owning to sibling owners, right? Very different in nature because siblings have a natural, inherent social system of competition. It's individual versus collective identity. And where is my place? Where is my voice? Where is my vote? And where's my power? Those are shared now, as well as cash flow. And that could, again, go from generation to generation because that sibling group, if they have what I call a shotgun ownership structure, which is the last man standing owns it, and then it goes to their kids, and there are multiple kids. So that could go for generations as well. The next real transfer of thinking and strategic planning and connected wealth comes into cousin generations and beyond. So the struggle is most of the time when it's going from a couple to the next generation of children, there's plenty of room for those children to work there. Farms can get dicey, but typically, right? Then it's who's in, who's out, why, how, in siblings. And can it run with just 2 people working there and 1 person not working there and the systems that we establish around that. But for me, cousins and beyond are the most difficult and also the most fun I'm experiencing in my work. And the reason is because it gets very dynamic because there's a lot more players. Cousins have very, typically, not always, but typically they have very different growing up processes. They're not always in the same community. They're not always in the same religion. They don't always have the same politics. So we've got all that family and personal relationship going on, right? And the connectivity to the business gets less and less the further the generations go. And that's where do we keep ourselves comes in a lot. And is it just bringing out family members and trimming the tree, or is it an actual partial sale of some branches, or is it a total sale? So that's where I really use our methodologies in EPI.
Interesting. Yeah. One of the things I really liked about Tom Dean's and the work that he was doing is that the investment of the heirs, like you have to invest. You have to have skin in the game. It's not just giving you the fractional interest in this business that's been around for 70 years. I'm just kind of curious. Do you think that has changed now?
whether there's been a transition in family businesses to encourage purchase.
To encourage purchase, or because this generation above us has accumulated so much wealth. And I'm just kind of curious that historically, I don't want to say my generation or our generation, I should say, that, that you had to work for things, right? Now, this next generation, it seems as though, I don't want to say they're given to it, but it's just kind of expected. And they almost pay to have their family member be a part of the family business, as opposed to, hey, I want to take the money and spin up a SaaS business. You know what I mean?
So actually, this is going to be funny because at the summit, Tom and I are doing the great debate. Tom has the luxury of living in Canada with a very different tax structure than we have.
You know what? I didn't even think of that. No, that
And
100.
so we are debating whether our social system in the United States and his social taxation systems in Canada shape the view of this work. So I would say to you, most of the next generation pay for the transfer without it being a contractual payment. So let me talk to you about that. So many of my families, the exiting generation gets a salary. Now, it could be for a defined period of time or it could be until they die. And so for one company I'm working with, the exiting owner sold shares and gifted shares, sold them through the company, used that money through the company for two brothers that own together. But he also has gotten a lifetime salary. That lifetime salary, as he held on to small parts of shares, right, and his dividends, has tripled his purchase price. Families do creative problem solving around this that privately held companies would never do. Never. Because the relationships are connected inherently because they're family members. I wouldn't want to buy a business from you, Ed, and pay you a salary for the rest of your life because, that seems weird. So they're very creative in how they approach these things.
Do you facilitate that creativity? And I'm just kind of curious to know how you tease that out. I got to believe that is your superpower, is being able to pull that out, because the dynamics that are associated, economic is what it is, but the family dynamics and being able to communicate hard conversations as well as just the normal day-to-day and ownership challenges, that probably is pretty interesting and difficult.
Actually, it's fascinating and I love it. But I would say to you, what's different about my work with family members than with my work with non-family members is our rule is constant and consistent communication, where we teach them how to have conversations they have failed at previously or they refuse to have because they don't know how to do it, and that we talk it through. And so I might take 4 work sessions to be able to get them to articulate what they need. What's it based on? Is it money? Is it based on identity? Is it based on repeated history? This is how you did it, so the next generation has to do it the same way. And how does that fit into business evolution? How does that fit into like brass tacks, ripple, growth, risk, profitability, liquidity? If somebody wants a purchase price, or if somebody wants to put it in a trust, receive dividends for lifetime, and then it doesn't transfer until death, and the next generation doesn't have real ownership because they never will. They'll always be beneficial owners, right? What does that do to the empowerment or disempowerment of the next generation of leaders? How does that work with non-family leaders? How does we dig deep in the connectivity? Looks like a spider web in my world. It's very rarely a Venn diagram. It's more like a spider web.
Let's say the patriarch or the matriarch for that matter, it's like from that era that you bulldozed, right? That this is just what the hell we're going to do, and that has always worked. I'm just curious to know how you diffuse the bulldog, right? Because it's certainly a lot of the families that we've seen. And again, it's back to the same old thing. This is the way we've always done it kind of thing. And that's always a bad thing, but it's always been effective. And, we've had many a client says, look at my balance sheet. Don't tell me it doesn't work, because it absolutely works. And so I'm just kind of curious to know, for that family that has that, just the head down, let's plow through it kind of thing, how do you address that?
When I vet my families, Ed, I vet
Yeah.
it with my values. And my values are I want to work with people that are teachable, that have integrity, and can find empathy or learn empathy. Some families don't work with me because they're not teachable. Now, my opinion is that people like that are teachable because typically, if they're coming to the table, they're coming to the table because they're running into tension or problems with the way things used to be done, and it's not working anymore. It's not motivating the next generation. They're losing human capital. They're losing family relationships. They're losing money, whatever it is. So they're willing to sit and listen. Do they struggle? You bet your butt they struggle. But I believe in Brene Brown's comment that you can't learn if you're not uncomfortable.
I'm married to a therapist, so I'm certain she probably told me that, and I
And
didn't.
you got to sit in discomfort a little bit and get in the arena, rumble with each other, have hard conversations, know that you're not going to come to a decision right away because people don't. They just don't. It's not how humans learn. It's not how humans process change unless there's a gun to their head or their house is on fire. They rarely adapt in 30 seconds.
So, a couple more questions because I know we're coming up on time. But so, as sitting on the boards and working with these families, what patterns do you see that most owners miss? What are you seeing from a high altitude that, it's like, I know this is the tripwire. What is that for a family that you see from your vantage point?
Tripwire is trusting the next generation that they can carry this wealth the same or even better than you and that you're becoming irrelevant.
That's an interesting conversation to have.
It's very normal though.
Yeah, no, no,
We do it
100%.
with our own kids. We do like even if you don't own a business together, sometimes that happens no matter
Sure.
what. But when we're talking about families that have decided that they're going to put their family at risk by owning a business together, you're putting your family at risk, but you're also like you would add these families that do this, they're amazing. They have connectivity and shared experience that you can't replicate. I work with a family right now where it's a third generation. They're all from a small town, cousins, siblings, big, big, big family. They live within 20 miles of each other. All their kids go to the same school. They teach each other kids. They coach each other's kids. They work in the same place. They grew up in the community, came back to the community. Their aunts and uncles are there. They get together. They celebrate birthdays. The connectivity is, I mean, like, I haven't seen some of my cousins since I was like 18 years old, right? Because like they're all over the country and there's nothing, grandma doesn't exist anymore to bring them together and whatever. But I mean, think about that. Like their kids have so many similar experiences. And it's a beautiful thing. It's also flipping complicated because you're never out of each other's lives. And like five of these family members live in the same subdivision. So when you think about the complexity of the systems that family business advisors or enterprise advisors, stick whatever label you want, look at that. And they have relationships way beyond what we have and what most families are comfortable with. And that's why that question of does the next generation want to be connected through money and wealth is so important. And just like it's complicated, but it can be a really amazing, beautiful thing. And the people that take this risk, they're unique.
I mean, it's so obvious of the risk to your family. And when I talk about net worths and things like that, I'm putting it as a singular, like it's a net worth. No, it's a family, right? It's much broader than just a particular net worth. So thank you for that. That's a good one. So, what's something that a client family has taught you, something that's changed how you think about legacy and leadership?
So I'll tell you one of my favorite things. I have a gentleman, Tim is probably 85 or 86, and they're fourth generation going to fifth. And I said, Tim, what do you think one of the reasons you were able to navigate these generational shifts occurred? And he said, because My grandpa always thought 2 generations ahead. So when I'm talking to my families, I use that all the time. If you want to be successful, you plan for this generation and the next generation with an eye to the third. What are we doing to impact the current generation? What are we doing to impact the next generation and their children? Like, what's the long-term flow of our decisions today?
Yeah, interesting. It's funny you say that because one of the things I've always heard, and it's not about exit plan, it's just you can tell how well you did with your kids based on how your grandkids are.
Yeah. I work a lot in ag, and I was working with another family that are very land reliant. They mine agate. And he was saying he plans 65 years ahead because he has to plan for digging, then reutilization and restructuring of that land. I think one of the keys to generational ownership of anything is looking way out into the future, not a 5-year plan or a 3-year plan like we do in businesses, right? But I'm buying this piece of land or I'm making this ownership decision not for myself and not for my children, but my grandchildren and the children beyond. That's a very different way to think. I mean, corporate America doesn't think that way. So I think that's what they've taught me is long-term views preserves.
So my last question, and I've asked everybody that for 130 episodes now, if there's one piece of advice that you could give a business owner that would have the greatest impact on their business, and I think we might have just hit it, but nevertheless, you can say it. What would that thing be? What would you tell them that would make the greatest singular impact of their business?
Your business dream is not your family's business dream. You have a relationship with this business, and it could be a good relationship, it could be an relationship, or it could be a really bad relationship. But it's your relationship. It's not your brother's relationship. It's not your father's relationship. It's not your children's relationship. It's your relationship. So if you want it to live beyond your life, it doesn't mean anybody else does. And you can't force it down people's throats.
So, Amy, where can people find you? Now, it's not a given that you're going to work with them. So, first things first, what does that look like? What's an ideal client look like for you? And then how do we find you?
Okay. So, an ideal client looks like, for me, families who want to learn, who have integrity and empathy and respect for one another. You can't make change if you want to do things the same way over and over again. That's some work. So I'm looking to test that. Like, are you curious? Are you willing to learn? And sometimes people have to be in a lot of pain for that to happen. And that's okay. Those 3 things are a filter for me and my group. I work with my operations assistant, Melissa Houts, and my son has come to work with me in August. Yeah, so I am walking the walk of what I teach. Where you can find me is at the Family Business Consulting Group, and it is Amy at THE, F for boy, F for Frank, B for boy, C for cookie, G for group.com. And my phone number is 440-695-0941.
Well, we'll certainly have all that in the show notes.
And I will be at the summit. I'm doing 2 presentations at the summit. I'm going to have a table.
That's in Nashville, right?
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I'm super excited about that.
Yeah.
And then I'm also going to be speaking at TPAP in January, which is an educational program for farmers on teaming and productive conflict, as well as generational trust ownership of farmland.
Okay.
I'll be speaking for Frito-Lay in January on coaching women next generation farmers. And I'll be in Montana in November speaking to ranchers. I've had the pleasure of speaking at the Indiana Farm Bureau's Next Generation Conference.
Nice.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Well, Amy, dear, it was great seeing you, great catching up. I appreciate the work you do, and I look forward to when we can see each other in person.
Yeah, me too. Are you going to be in Nashville?
I'm planning on it.
All right. See you then. Bye.
See ya. Thanks for listening to the Defenders of Business Value. If today's episode helped you think differently about building or selling a business, follow the show so you don't miss what's next. And if you want to become a more informed, confident owner, the one who knows how to grow, protect, and eventually exit at maximum value, subscribe to my newsletter. The link is in the show notes. And if you're ready to talk about your next deal, connect with me on LinkedIn. So until next time, we'll see you soon.